Today we're going to continue to look at rational expressions and simplifying them. We're going to start by talking about our excluded values. That'll be a phrase you'll hear, or where the expression is undefined. The main thing we got to keep in mind, a mathematical rule, you cannot divide by a negative or divide by zero. So on anytime we're asked to express our domain or find where it's undefined, what we're going to do is take our denominator and find out where it is equal to zero. I like to put not equal to because we have to avoid this amount. So when we do this, we can solve like we have here. This would be 49. We take the square root of both sides. We've got to remember as well, when you take the square root of a number, it is both a negative and positive version of that answer. So my two excluded values, or where the domain is undefined, is at both 7 and negative 7. We could have also done this by factoring. Remember, our factors that of 49 that becomes 0 would be positive and negative 7. And then we go from there. And again, we see this would equal 0, and so would this. So we got to make sure that we do not have a denominator of 0. And then we're going to continue to look at just simplifying these expressions. You don't have to, on your homework, you do not have to simplify or write the excluded values, but I do want you to keep those in mind as we work through these. We are going to have trinomials every time, so we need the factors of 14 that can become 9. So the factors of 14 that can become 9 are negative 7 and negative 2. Then we move to our denominator, and we factor the same way. Again, if you have any issues factoring, remember you can always graph these things and see where they cross the x-axis, and it will be the opposite of those values. In other words, this function that I just factored would have a crossing at 7 and at 2. That's why I have factors of x minus 7 and x minus 2. All right, moving on to the next one, we need the factors of 63 that can become 16. So the factors of 63, that one would be 9 and 7. 9 and 7 is a way that we can get 16 if both of the numbers are negative. So I'm going to write x minus 7, x minus 9. This is the point in the equation where we would stop and we would identify our restrictions on the domain. This would come from the value x equals 7, because if we plugged in 7, that would be 0, causing the whole thing to be 0. And then this one would be 9. So those would be our excluded values. Again, this will not show up on your homework, but I do want you guys to keep that into consideration. So once we get down to this, we have x minus 7 divided by x minus 7. So we now have x minus 2 over x minus 9. Later on, what we'll start to talk about is the difference between the excluded value 7 and the excluded value 9. We clearly see that one of them canceled, one of them did not. And we'll talk about what that effect has on the graph later. And then the last one we're going to look at is this right here. We need the factors of 36 that can become 13. If you need to break these down, 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9. So 4 times 9 would be our winner here. Now I'll give you a hint on these as well. If the factors that work in the top are likely going to be factors that are in the bottom. That is not a math rule, but if they don't match, then what we'll end up with is a question that cannot be simplified. And we don't see that very often. So this would be x plus 4 times x plus 9. And my denominator, we need the factors of 28 that can become negative 3. And again, a good place to look is these numbers that we just had, 4 and 9. Well, 9 can never become 28, but 4 can when it's 4 times 7. And 4 times 7 can equal -3. So you can use your answers from the top to help you simplify the bottom as well. At least limit your search. So we get down to this. My excluded values, my restrictions on the domain would be x equal to -4. That means we not only is it not a solution, we can't even use that number. And the other one would be x equal to 7. Those are my excluded values. And then the x plus 4 are like terms here, or are become 1 because they're divided by. So this would be x plus 9 divided by x minus 7. One thing I want to highlight to you as well, this is I mentioned to a student yesterday, so I think I'll mention to all of you. Notice that the powers, the highest power of the both, were equal, and then the answer was equal. This will always be the case. If they're off by a degree of 1, let's just say the numerator was 1 degree higher than the denominator, then when we're done, the result will have a numerator that is 1 degree higher than the denominator. You'll never have a change in the power difference in the two things here. So keep that in mind as you look at your solutions.